Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Pert.
Good morning, Earthlings. Welcome back to First Contact Radio. How you doing today? Glad that you could be here as always. Today is the 11th of August, 2016. Our sun sign is in Leo, and our moon sign at the moment is in Scorpio. However, it's going to be making a transition from Scorpio into the next moon sign later today, and that will be to Sagittarius. So, just a quick summary before we look at things further. Leo, the lion, got this animal nature, this beast inside of us that wants to express itself, that wants to roar, but we want to use our imagination and creativity to be able to temper in what is coming out there to make it more usable. Use our imagination. It's very important because if we just go like wild animals and we don't rise above that to impose upon that or add to that our human intellect, our ability to be something a little bit more than just that wild, crazy animal, then we're not using ourselves to the fullest ability. So it's very important. Our moon sign has been in Scorpio. Emotions, feelings, last couple of days, a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings of everything that's going on. People's buttons are getting pushed because someone says this and they're oversensitive to that. A lot of examples in the world. Not a physical death, but a death of the emotions, which feels like it could be physical. But we are moving into a new moon sign, which is Sagittarius. This is truth. We have the angel, the higher self now, which we've come out of the emotions. We've experienced those feelings, but now we want to do something with it. And we realize we've got to get one foot on the water, the emotions, but we also have to have one foot on the land so that we have one in the conscious, unconscious. We need to find balance. We need to be tempered on what we're doing because if we just allow ourselves to get thrown off balance, we're not going to be able to get where we want to get because we're going to be too busy trying to get ourselves in balance. So stay focused, stay on the path, be balanced, and that's the whole secret. So we're looking at the aspects. Jupiter expanded our energy, expanded out everything about what's going on with us from those emotions that we're feeling. And over the course of the evening, as we were going through our sleep, for most of us in part of the world, and the other part, expansion of all those energies. Then we got into the part where we now, Chiron is in the mix. Chiron wants to look at those feelings, but see where those feelings are in relation to any pains we have going on in our life, any emotional upsets or place that's wounded that needs to be healed, because we all have something within ourselves that we're trying to heal. And in healing it, we're able to then move through life without that pain and therefore be more effective. In the next half hour, we are going to be going void of course as we move through the last aspect of Scorpio, and things are going to be void of course all the way until 12:24 p.m., just shortly after noon, and that's when we finally move into Sagittarius for the moon sign representing the unconscious desires, those things that are under the surface. And later this evening, we're going to get a good set of energy coming our way towards, it's a conjunction here. These are both in the same house, right next to each other, having a conversation. Mars, which wants to charge, give that energy, a big shot of oomph, and Sagittarius, which wants to find a way to express that truthfulness. So I think we're going to see ourselves really charged to want to move forward, to express truth, to see truth. It's very important to us these days. We've gone through a lot of distruths, mistruths, and we're now really seeking to see something more. So this will be an interesting day. Remember, we are almost at that period of time over the weekend. We've got the 14th talked about in the Georgia Guidestones. So that's this Sunday. Today would be, well, we'll get to that momentarily. On the moon phase, still waxing, making our way up to the full moon, 58.4%. Full moon, 7 days from now, August 18th. Jewish calendar today is 7 Av. 7 Av, remember 9 Av is the day, that is the ominous day where all the unfortunate events have happened around Israel, the Jewish state, and the various tragedies that occurred over the years. We also saw that when we looked at the information yesterday about the Georgia Guidestones, there were events in the past that have gone on from like the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th. So we're in that window of time where historically there has been much calamity. So we'll see what's going on. We certainly are seeing a lot of strange things taking place in the world these days. We just need to observe, see how it all puts together. The daily thought for today is the lost ark. In Solomon's temple, there are two places reserved for the holy ark. One is the chamber of the Holy of Holies, and one hidden deep beneath the chamber. There are two places to find God's presence in all its glory. One is in the most holy of chambers, beyond the place of light and heavenly incense. There is God himself. There God himself could be found by the most perfect of mortals on the most sublime day of the year. Today we cannot enter that place, but there is another place beyond catacombs and convoluted mazes, deep within the bowels of the earth, and yet always accessible to those who make the journey. There, those whose faces are charred with the ashes of failure, their hands bloody from scraping through dirt and stone, their clothes torn from falling again and again, and their hearts ripped by bitter tears, there in that subterranean darkness, they are blinded by the light, by the hidden things of God, until that presence will shine for all of us forever. Very nice. Good thought for today. Space weather, solar wind 580.4 kilometers per second. Planetary K index yesterday was at a 4. We've dropped back down now. 2 and a 3 possibility over the next 24 to 48 hours. A large coronal hole on the top of the sun is still there. Sure we'll be feeling some effect from that. M-class flare possibilities dropped from 10 down to 5%. X-class is at 1. Geomagnetic storm activity is subsiding, 25 down to 15 in the mid-latitudes. Upper latitudes, we've got dropping down from 30 to 25. So there is things subsiding. And remember, with this weather, with the space weather, the universe is breathing in and out, in and out. And that's what we're experiencing when we look at this. Universe breathes, and we live within that experience. All right, that is our cosmic weather. UFO news is up next.
This is the UFO news with Joshua Poet.
All right, Derek, thank you very much. Today's UFO news, I have 4 stories. Story number 1 takes us to the clouds above Belgium. This was at the end of July. Here we got the cloud. We have 2 orbs. Right there. UFOs are often seen during sunsets, as you see in the video below. In the video, we see a long UFO stick out of the top of the cloud and shoot out smaller orbs that move away in pairs. I have seen this exact same thing with a giant UFO cloud over the Russia freeway about 5 years ago. It also had several orbs shoot out, but no one else noticed it but me back then. The cloud was glowing too much more than a normal cloud, which shows that there is something reflective and metallic material inside the cloud that causes it to light up from inside. Okay, so here we go. This video itself is 3 minutes. Zip ahead here. Alright, here's a very interesting cloud formation. Now, you don't normally see that. Clouds don't look that way. The sun certainly isn't situated just on that cloud alone, because if the sun was shining there, there'd be a lot more sun all around. Obviously, something is illuminating this particular area. And that's when, as we watch, we do see these orbs exit the cloud. Okay, there we go. This object coming out right there. All right, so check it out. Links available. Next, we have another image up by the sun. This one goes back to a couple months ago, but I have this object here making its way in. Some other ship is what it asks here. UFO was found by the Soho Street Cap 1 of YouTube. Shows a dome on the top and the bottom. A wide disc-like edges that get thinner at their ends. This is why I believe it to be a giant disc. There's also smaller UFOs moving around, and those would be maybe these little things right here. Okay, so let's take a little closer look at what this was. And here we go. And that's how it looked when we saw it up by the sun there, or when Street Cap 1 captured this. So this could be a glitch, or it could be something real. It's a little too symmetrical to think that it's just a glitch. And we have seen things like this before, and now this one does look like it is moving away, if that is the case. Alright, next story here, strange activity in the sky above London. Video was filmed back in February. This object right here says we videoed this from our flat and ponders in Enfield, London, UK. At first you might think the object was a star if you didn't know what you were looking at, but it's not, which I could see when I videotaped with my tablet and was able to see. So a good look here at what this was. And you may be wondering, why am I showing videos back from months ago? It's because sometimes they take a while to come in. You know, people send them in. Sometimes they sit on them for a while before they turn them in because they're not sure what people are going to think. And often sometimes it just takes some time for these videos to become available. Okay, and one last story. This is over at the National UFO Center, Filers Research Institute. This talks about the RAND Corporation's UFO study, which took place back in 1968. This is a document by the RAND Corporation, a think tank associated with the U.S. Air Force and the CIA. RAND Corp originally claimed the UFO documents are secret and cannot be publicly divulged. Then later, upon Freedom of Information Act requests, that they not have any documents related to the UFO phenomena. The author of the following memo, George Koch, goes to promote the EP hypothesis. This is probably the reason that RAND could not make it public at that time. CIA was involved in efforts to ridicule and discourage any UFO investigation effort. Koch refers to NICAP, the Civilian UFO Investigation Group, several times. This organization had a large number of former CIA personnel in its management and strongly opposed to UFO secrecy. All right, November 27th, 1968. Says, introduction, common sense is the quintessence of the experiences and the prejudices of its time. It is the most unreliable advisor when one is confronted with a perfectly new situation. UFOs, identified flying objects, or flying saucers, as they are often called, have been on the minds of the public for at least the last 22 years. For a number of reasons, we know that a little more about them now than we did at the outset. There exists a great amount of information or misinformation about the phenomena, not only in the minds of the public, but among educated groups such as scientists as well. It is the purpose of this series of essays to describe various aspects of the phenomena, make clear my prejudices and the reasons for them, and to suggest the means of proceeding on this interesting and potentially very significant problem. But first, a few words about the term UFO. J.A. Hynek, an astronomer having continuous involvement with UFO study for over 20 years, defines UFOs as any reported aerial or surface visual sighting or radar return which remains unexplained by conventional means, even after examination by competent persons. This definition specifies neither flying nor objects. I would agree, but preferred to replace the radar return with instrumental observation, and even after examination by competent persons to even after the competent examination by qualified persons. This then is the definition I have adopted in the 5 essays that follow. Okay, and then we have a historical aspect which is presented, part 1. We move into the astronomical aspects, character of reports, and then finally our UFOs phenomenological aspects, and finally how to proceed and why. So, lengthy report here, as you can see. This is something well worth the read. We've talked about it before, so it's not the very first time by any means. It's just something that taking a look at now. So take a good look at it. Make copies of reference page. But the subject's been studied for a long while. Okay, it's been studied for quite some time. Not anything new. And that's our UFO news. I'll be back. Stay tuned.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing, but they're illusion from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up.
All right, let's continue on. Lot to talk about, All right, before I get into the stories, I have a little thoughts on a few things, some stories I didn't pull up here, but one of the things you're going to be seeing as you pick up the newspapers today and you read the stories is you're going to see this Olympic story. A lot of craziness at the Olympics. There's been, certainly a number of robberies that have occurred. There's been, unfortunately, a number of rapes that have occurred. There's been people imprisoned. I mean, we're not hearing about all of these things, but they're happening. They're happening behind the scenes, and they're trying to keep a lock on that. And then, of course, there's been a number of athletes that have made some sort of political expressions. The whole idea of the Olympic Games is supposed to go there to be able to get away from all of that nonsense, to be able to show that these athletes are able to rise above the situation of the politics of their land, to come together to show humanity that we can get along, and through the opportunity of playing these games, to be able to play nice with each other. But that hasn't always been the case. There's been friction that has taken place. Find out friction about the between Israelis and the Muslims that are out there, which is nonsensical. You have frictions between inner frictions between the different teams. One of the things that I'm getting to here is the Olympic athletes, the gymnasts. They won the gold medal, and they went and they had their gold medal ceremony. And one of the things that people are talking about, unfortunately, is the fact that one of these athletes was there, one of these gymnasts was there, and she didn't stand at attention with her hand on her heart. And so people are critical about this situation, and other people are saying, oh, what's the big deal about it? She was there in her outfit, and. So here's my thoughts on this. It is a big deal, but people are lumping a lot of things together unnecessarily. People are thinking because we're noticing her behavior at the ceremony that they're disrespecting what she did at the Olympics. First of all, you got to recognize and give props to all of the girls because they did a great job. They won a gold medal. All of them. They have obviously worked very hard to get there. Part of that process, though, is the final ceremony where they receive the gold medal. And for the course of that ceremony, Americans and people around the world tune in to watch and see if their country won something, to share in the pride of what that country is about. And in America, we have a lot of challenges these days, so we're looking to be able to find a way to bond together, to come together. And so when people turn that on and they see the girls there, and you see one of them is not standing there seeming to care about the fact that there's American flag or the anthem playing, people are upset by it, and rightly so. They're not upset by her talent. They're not upset by her skill because she obviously had that to get there. What they're upset by is the 1 minute of time where focus was lost and there wasn't attention paid to what was going on. Because that was a moment when the whole world was watching. See, we get like in a little bubble thinking over here in America that the only one watching are Americans, and it's okay if one person doesn't show patriotism, but the whole world is watching. What do you think people in Germany watching this, or China, or Japan, or North Korea, or other countries look at when they see this? They don't see the same things we do. They see four girls standing there showing patriotism and one girl who's not part of that. And then it brings questions. Why? What's up with that girl? Why isn't she doing and participating with her team when she was part of her team all the other times? It's an unnecessary distraction that is occurring, and it's unfortunate the conversation is there, somewhat overshadowing the fact that the girls are up there getting those medals. They should have not had that distraction whatsoever, and all it required was one extra moment of focus by the young lady during the course of the ceremony. And people say, well, it's not a big deal. But really? Is it not a big deal? You see, America's got a lot of problems right now, and part of the problem is we have this lack of patriotism. And it's a lack of patriotism because the young people are not being taught properly in the schools. We hear over and over how the flag's being disrespected, the Constitution's being disrespected, children are not being taught. So what we saw wasn't something individual to that young lady. She was just simply a representation of the problem we have in America where young people aren't properly being taught to respect the country they're in. And that is the problem. So when we look at the situation as you're looking at, try to separate yourself and separate her skill and her talent from that last moment up on the stage. Did a great job during the performances. They got the gold. It was that last moment. Because when you're an Olympic athlete, you don't just represent yourself. You represent your entire country. You represent the mothers and the daughters, the husbands, the fathers, the sons. You represent every single American, the grandmothers, the great grandmothers, every single American that's watching that. You represent them as well because they couldn't make it there, and these athletes are working very diligently, and the people are living vicarious through them. Seems a lot of pressure that would be, but that's just how it is. So people turn on, they want to see that moment of pride, the pride when America got the flag, when they got the medal and they're standing there, and you get to have that moment of, America, this is what it feels like to have pride for your country. So don't beat up on the girl. She's just a symptom of a bigger situation that we have going on. The problem is the system. And if people paid more attention and had a little bit more pride for what's going on, things might be a little different. Now, part of the conversation is that it was the 1 year anniversary from Michael Brown's death and the beginning of when Black Lives Matter came into reality. And so people are saying, well, is this why she was standing there in that way? Was the fact that she was invited to the White House and spent time with Michelle Obama and some of those at the White House, did they get into her and speak some anti-American sentiment to her that she was feeling. All of these things are in the mix. Again, she is just simply a symptom of a larger problem. It's unfortunate that we saw this as we did because it takes away from the one moment where everybody, instead of just talking about the five girls who got the gold medal in the great ceremony, now you got to hear this story about the girl that didn't put her hand on the heart. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality of the situation. The other thing I've noticed in life is the desensitization that's going on. We're all being desensitized by what's happening, where we're losing sense of our own feelings about things. I was watching a video the other day. Last night it was a Black Lives Matter rally out in Missouri in celebration of the 1 year anniversary. And here they're marching in the street. Again, you should know better than not to march into the street, play in the street. It's nighttime, it's dark, and a car just zips by, and one guy got hit pretty good. The car didn't stop, kept going. And the person's laying there. People are trying to figure out what's going on. Next thing you hear is gunshots. Somebody is shooting. And after all of this calamity that's going on and all of the tragedy that's going on, you hear the voices screaming, one of the girls screaming, "Look at those police across the street. They're just sitting there in their cars not doing anything." Yet that evening, they were there protesting against the police with all of the rhetoric that we hear the Black Lives Matter group doing and against them. But now suddenly there's a tragedy and they want them there. So we've got a lot of confusion. People aren't understanding what they want, and they're being desensitized by these horrific acts. I'm watching this thing, and whereas you look at it and you think this should be something horrific that we cringe by, it's getting all too common, so that we're all getting used to this. When someone's getting injured, we're not finding ourselves in a place where we're able to really look objectively sometimes, because we're so desensitized. We're being so overwhelmed and inundated with all of these tragic events that it's becoming commonplace. And that's not really a good thing. We don't want to have tragedy be something commonplace in our life. We want to be able to rise above that, figure out what the situation is. But it all goes back to these ideas of truthfulness in the world versus untruth. The last couple of days, we've had a moon sign in an emotional sign, Scorpio, and a lot of emotions coming out. People are feeling things. Things are going to change now as we move into the next moon sign, where we have Sagittarius, fire, because we've now got a fire moon sign and a fire sun sign. Lots of fire, lots of ideas. Fire can burn things down if it's not used properly, but fire can also cook food, provide warmth, provide light. So there's a lot of good things can come from it. We have to see how we're going to use this. Have we learned the lessons? Because this is a continual process of learning, that we're going through. Now, part of the truths that are coming out in the world are here in America are involving our political process. Because over the years, it has been corrupt. It has been corrupt for a long time. It's not in the last 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, but for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, it's been corrupt. The media has been corrupt since 1917, controlling the information that goes out to the general public. That's 100 years of media control. You can flip on any of the channels and you can hear the propaganda from these journalists on there. You hear the tactic of name callings that they use, and the way in which they present things are so one-sided and biased, and how they attack people, and the seeming lack of respect from some of these journalists to the guests that they have on. It's really incredible, but it's what's going on. So we simply need to understand that people are expressing feelings that have been bottled up for a long time and are now coming to the surface. Okay, some more things that are coming out here, because this isn't over by any means. So hang on to your hats, my friends. But WikiLeaks, the gift that keeps on giving, now has emails coming out showing connections between Soros and Clinton. Now, obviously, there is going to be some communication between these type of individuals because they are working on the world stage. But the problem that we've had is concerned that there was collusion going on, that this person who was putting money into a campaign was dictating how things should go. And what we have by this series of leaked emails is confirmation of exactly that. George Soros is dictating a problem that has occurred in Albania, and here the donor was then catered to by Clinton and what went on. Now, we don't really see the direct email exchange coming back from Hillary here, but we do have reports and newspaper reports out there from Albania to show that the advice and the information she was given by George Soros is exactly the thing that was put into play out there. So this man is having a tremendous effect on what's going on in the world simply because he donated money to this political party. And that really shouldn't be, because we didn't elect him. He was not an elected official. He is somebody who's just using his money to throw his weight around. And we see the things that he's a part of. Black Lives Matter. He's one of the men behind Black Lives Matter. He's one of the men behind a lot of the civil unrest that is going on. So you have to wonder what this man's role is, and why is somebody who's involved with so much civil unrest involved with members of one of our political parties. Not very good, not very good at all. So we got a problem there. Big problems, my friends. Now, yesterday, to add to the strangeness of this political season, you may or may not have heard the story of the man climbing Trump Tower. This man over here goes by the name Steve. Spent 2.5 hours climbing up Trump Tower using these series of suction cups, something like out of the movie Mission Impossible, where we saw Tom Cruise climbing up the building. Okay, and he spent a bunch of time, and I was watching this. At one point, they broke a hole in the window to try to reach out to him. That didn't work. He kept climbing, kept getting up there. People wonder what was about. What's in this guy's backpack? Does he have a bomb in there? Does he have something in there that's going to injure people? Others said it was just papers in there. And then discovered online was this video here. And this video was a video of the alleged climbers, and this was posted the day before. And in this video, he says the reason why he was climbing the Trump Tower. And he said he was climbing it because he had a message for Mr. Trump and didn't think there was any other way to get the attention, because this was such a big issue, and there were some ideas that alluded to concerns for his own safety if he didn't get this information directly to Mr. Trump. So it seems as if he was taking the approach that he needed to do something drastic. He even said this in his video, that he wouldn't be risking his life if it wasn't that drastic, because he feels that he had something important he needed to get directly to Mr. Trump, and if he didn't do that, his life might be in jeopardy, maybe perhaps from the DNC, because in the last several months we've had at least 3 deaths, maybe 5 of them that I'm aware of, that have occurred around the DNC. People that have been involved, from the person who served them the papers to the Seth Rich, who WikiLeaks is alluding to was involved with them on their source over there of information, and several others. So it's not a good scene. Truth's coming out. People are taking drastic steps. This was one of these drastic steps. All in all, this gentleman was finally taken down off the roof. The police finally got him right here. You can see the final moment where they reached out, they grabbed him, they pulled him in, and then later we see him wheeled out by a stretcher, and they said he was taken to Bellevue, and that's the last that we have heard of this situation. So why did they take him to Bellevue? Well, maybe it's just common practice that when somebody does something like this, they assume that they're Looney Tunes, and they take them to the facility for some sort of checkup. I don't know. But that's what happened, and there you go. Okay, so I want to jump over to another story here. This is an important one. We're hearing the immigration story. We're hearing comments that Donald Trump had made about wanting to ban these Muslims, and people are all up in arms about this. How could he say something like this? And they're sticking with the part of the story that the media represented, that it was a permanent ban, when it really wasn't. So what we have here is this act from 1952, June 27th, 1952, 82nd Congress. It's the 1952 Immigration and Nationality Act, a.k.a. the McCarran-Walter Act, an act to revise the laws relating to immigration, naturalization, and nationality and for other purposes. Okay, so we go through here and let me read the beginning part. Otherwise known as the McCarran-Walter Act, the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952 was meant to exclude certain immigrants from immigrating to America post-war, World War II, and in the early Cold War. The McCarran-Walter Act moved away from excluding immigrants based simply upon origin. Instead, it focused on denying immigrants who were unlawful, unmoral, diseased in any way, politically radical, etc., and accepting those who were willing and able to assimilate into the United States economic, social, and political structures, which restructured how immigration law was handled. Furthermore, the most notable exclusions were anyone even remotely associated with communism, which in its early days of the Cold War was seen as a serious threat to U.S. democracy. The main objective of this was to block any spread of communism from outside post-World War II countries, as well as to deny any enemies of the U.S. during World War II, such as Japan, and to favor good Asian countries such as China. The McCarran-Walter Act was a strong reinforcement in immigration selection, which was labeled as the best way to preserve national security and national interests. President Truman originally vetoed the law, deeming it discriminatory. However, there was enough support in Congress for the law to pass. So here we have this law on the books from 1952, which would prohibit anybody that was radicalized or coming from these countries that want to cause hurt to American citizens, to ban them, to keep them out of America. So when Donald Trump said what he had to say, he's not saying something new. He is expressing something that was passed in 1952. So we got 62, 72, 82, 92, 2, 12. That's 64 years. 64 years ago is when this came out. 64 years ago. So all the people that are jumping on Mr. Trump saying that he is trying to propose something unconstitutional needs to step back, need to learn a little bit of history and understand that 64 years ago this was put in place to make it illegal for bringing those type of individuals into America that want to harm American citizens. The problem is it's not being enforced. And that's why. So people think that this is the practice, that they're able to come in because the laws aren't being enforced. And isn't that what Mr. Trump is saying? He keeps saying the laws aren't being enforced. They're not. That's the problem. That is the problem. Okay? So, there you go. Got a video here I'm going to leave for you to watch on your own. This is from Anonymous. Time to unplug is now OperationMatrix. So again, another one of these interesting bits of stuff that's happening during this period of time. Anonymous has been very instrumental in helping us to see what is going on in the world from the perspective of being behind the curtain, because they've basically pulled back the curtain. They've been able to infiltrate the system and pull back the curtain so we could see what's going on. Now, over the course of the years, there's been a number of individuals who try to claim themselves connected to Anonymous and have done some things that have caused others to be concerned about who this group was or doubt their intentions. But ultimately, Anonymous, made a statement, I believe it was earlier this year, end of last year, in which they let it be known that exactly what I said. There are those out there posing as them. We can't buy into all of the lies there. It's unfortunate some are doing that, but if we just pay attention to how they operate, we'll understand that there is a set of integrity and principles that they are working by. They're really working towards the people, trying to help people see things. The big problem is that people have been brainwashed for so long, for lack of a better word. Remember, 1917 is when media was taken over. That's let's just a year shy of 100 years, okay? 100 years ago, media was taken over. People think that they're getting the truth from the media, but the media was hijacked 100 years ago. It hasn't been given back. It's gotten worse and worse and worse. So we need to understand that And a lot of people are really having a hard time with it when the truth is exposed, because suddenly you're brought to the reality that everything that you've been told for such a long while has been a lie. You've been lied to, we've been lied to, and that is the problem. So let's get past our worry about how we're going to deal with this, and let's just deal with this. Deal with the fact we've been lied to. Got it? Now let's move forward and fix the problem. And that's what's going on. Donald Trump is out there really working hard to make that happen. Look at all the lies that he's exposed. Look how many corrupt politicians are jumping out of the woodwork and coming forward and exposing themselves for their corruption. Look how the media, by him calling them out, has shown their hand on how corrupt they are. It's a corrupt system. Okay, it is a corrupt system. We can go back and we can find historical evidence to prove all of this. We can see false flag events that have been going on for 30, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years that have been going on, dragging us into wars, and we look back and realize those were just staged events that dragged us in a situation that we didn't need to be in. And as long as we Americans keep getting fooled by the same trick, we're going to keep getting pulled into the same old type of wars and situations. The moment we wake up, the moment we stop being fooled, it's simply that easy. All right, changing gears here, let's take a look at the Hopi Prophecies, because they play into all of this, because there's something very prophetic going on. We've got the Georgia Guidestones and the date of the 14th, which is a significant date that keeps coming up number-wise there. We have the book of Revelation and the prophecy of the end times that seems to be unfolding. We see characters. We hear phrases that are being used now that are similar to phrases that we used during the prophetic books of Daniel, Matthew, Revelation. And we have prophecies from Native American indigenous people about what's going to go on. One of them that's very significant is the Hopi Prophecies. We have the Blue Star Kachina prophecy. An ancient Hopi prophecy states that when the Blue Star Kachina makes its appearance in the heavens, the fifth world will emerge. This will be the day of purification. The Hopi name for the star Sirius is Blue Star Kachina. It comes when Sequoias, Blue Star Kachina, dances in the plaza and removes its mask. Okay. Now, some think that this Blue Star Kachina might have been some of the comments that went through. So, very significant there. It says, reality is a metaphor in which we quest to find answers to the greater truth of who we are, why we are here. Something in our souls tell us that change is happening on a global conscious level. The blue frequency is part of that. Sirius is Isis, rebirth of consciousness. Okay, so one of the things that is going on in the world today is, if we look at the past and understand the term Isis, Isis has always been associated with one of the deities, one of the goddesses. Okay, there's a whole lot that has occurred around the story of Isis and wisdom attained in ancient Egypt and so on. Isis wasn't about a terroristic group. Nowadays it is. So what is the purpose? Was this name brought up to maybe, smear the name of Isis so we no longer think of that feminine aspect of life as being any significance, because we suddenly decide that it's connected with terrorism? See how things happen like that? It's very easy to rewrite history just by changing some of the definitions that are used. As we get down here, we see Prophecy Rock. This is what the Hopi prophecy is centered around, this particular image here. An image where we have a couple of paths. We have one path here, got a second path down here. It says near Arabi, Arizona, there's a petroglyph known as Prophecy Rock, which symbolizes many Hopi prophecies. Its interpretation is a large human figure on the left is the Great Spirit. The bow in his left hand represents the instructions to the Hopi to lay down their weapons. The vertical line to the right of the Great Spirit is the time scale in thousands of years. The point to which the Great Spirit touches the line is the time of his return. The life path established by the Great Spirit divides into the lower narrow path of continuous life in harmony with nature and the wide upper road of white man's scientific achievements. The bar between the paths above the cross, this one right here, is the coming of the white men. The cross is that of Christianity. The circle below the cross represents the path of life. I believe right here. Okay, the circle below the cross is the path of life. The four small human figures in the upper road right here represent on one level the three past worlds in the present. On another level, the figures indicate that some of the Hopi will travel the white man's path, having been seduced by its glamour. The two circles on the lower path of life right here are the great shaking of the earth, World Wars I and II. The swastika in the sun and the Celtic cross represents the two helpers of Hana, the true white brother. The short line that returns to the straight path right here is the last chance for people to turn back to nature before the upper road disintegrates and dissipates. The small circle above the path of life after the last chance is the great purification, after which corn will grow in abundance again when the Great Spirit returns, and the life path continues forever. The Hopi shield in the lower corner symbolizes the earth, and the four corners where the Hopi have been reserved. The arms of the cross also represent the four directions in which they migrated according to the instructions of the Great Spirit. The dots represent the four colors of Hopi corn and the four racial colors of humanity. Okay, so we have the Great Spirit. We have a path that is moving directly across, but this path has a second path where those have gone off this path and created their own path, and as this path goes off, it kind of goes off, and there's nothing here as it kind of trails off into nothingness. Whereas this other path down here is an opportunity for those who have taken this other path to return to, and therefore there is abundance and growth as we continue on. Okay, there's the original prophecy rock right there. So there's opportunities for us to move forward, opportunities for us, but this has been something that has been told. Basically, the story is we've gotten off path, we've gotten off track, we need to get back on track, and if we don't, then we're going to have some big problems because we need to get back on path. The other path doesn't lead anywhere, at all. So we need to focus, we need to get back to where we need to be. All right, that's the Hopi prophecy. Give me a moment, I'll be right back. We'll continue on in a minute. In the meantime, here is the song, Great Spirit.
Come into our circle, Great Spirit. Fill our souls with peace.
Great Spirit, shine
Great Spirit. You know, I was out in Hopi land. I had actually spent a week camping out in Chaco Canyon, where the Anasazi Indians were. Anasazis were ancestors of the Hopi, and I was out there for a week with some friends. We were camping, had some amazing experience, some great visions out there. The land is just such a pure area. The air, I mean, everything about the place is awesome. If you ever have a chance to go, go. Anyway, I came home, sat down at my desk, and I just started hearing the song in my head, just the way that you heard it right there. So wrote it down, and there you have it. So there you have it. So I think it's very important, my friends, that we really kind of get back to understanding of what the Great Spirit is trying to express to us. We've gotten off track. We have gotten off track, and now we're kind of lost in all of this confusion because we created this reality, this artificial reality outside of the natural realm that was created. And we've created a lot of good things, but we've also created a lot of disharmony because greed gets into the mix. And with greed, then you have people who are doing disreputable things. And now we have problems in the world like we have because that greed has got out of control and has actually affected and infected not only our politicians, but our media, who is supposed to present to us what's going on in the world, and the investors and so on and so forth. So a lot of things are affected, and of course the people watching are affected because they see these things and then they believe what's being told to them. Earlier in the show, and as we've been going through the sign of Leo, I keep showing you this card here, and I keep telling you this is about imagination, that we need to use our imagination to connect in to what we're doing. Well, here's an article that talks directly to that. It says how your energy system and imagination are connected. Okay, so if we look at this as our energy system, and there's our imagination right there. Look how they're connected. We need to have them work together. Okay, it's all one big system. From Sadhguru. There is a certain geometry to the physical existence and the energy existence. Everything in the universe, from the atomic to the cosmic, works in the way it does because of the geometric perfection. One of the most fundamental and the most stable forms of geometry is a triangle. In the human energy system, there are two equilateral triangles, one pointing upward and one below, and a downward pointing to one above. Normally, these two triangles meet just above the Anahata. To work with your mind and your imagination, it is important to adjust the alignment of the two triangles, at least to some extent. The ideal alignment would be that of the upward pointing and the downward pointing triangles intersect to such an extent that they form a perfect six-pointed star with six equilateral triangles on the outside. With the necessary alignment, you'll be able to exercise your imagination in such a way that you can manifest what you want outside of you. To enhance the power of your imagination, you need to lift the upward pointing triangle, which in terms of the geometry of the body is the foundation, to such an extent that it includes the Vishuddhi, which is the basis of your imagination. There is Sarhanda to move it up and to hold it there all the time. If you do not have such a handa, a simple way to achieve this is to not eat for a period of time. Generally, when the stomach is empty, the upward pointing triangle tends to rise by itself. Once you eat again, it descends. The importance of keeping the chakras mobile. There are 114 chakras in the body. The 72,000 nadis, or energy pathways, in this system have 114 significant junction points where the nadis meet in substantial numbers and redistribute themselves. These points are generally known as chakras, which literally means wheel or circle. Throughout, though they are actually triangles, we call them chakras because they suggest movement, moving forward. Out of the 114, two are outside of the physical realm. For most human beings, these two are very feeble unless they put in the necessary sahanda. Out of the remaining 112 chakras, a few are generally located in certain parts of the body on the physiological level. The rest of the chakras could be moving to some extent. The way the chakras move depends on what you do with yourself. If you want to empower yourself to do different types of activities and to adjust to different types of situations, the pranic physiology or the chakra physiology of the body needs to be able to adjust accordingly. Doing the necessary work to keep the chakras mobile is important because the mobility of the chakras determines how flexible and effective you are in different types of situations in order to meet different types of requirements. The problem with most human beings is in one situation they function well, in another situation they are a total mess. This is because they can think, feel, and act in a particular way. You should be able to do everything well with a little practice, but this will not work if your energy system is rigid. So keeping your system mobile is important, not just because we want to do different kinds of activities in the world. It also gives you certain flexibility of experience that you are comfortable in any situation. To be at ease, your energies must be flexible. These 112 chakras can be used as 112 doorways to your ultimate nature. That is why Adiyogi gave 112 ways to attain to the ultimate. To be able to move this complex triangle structure of your physiology the way you want requires a different level of sadhana. But the most fundamental thing is that the two triangles should intersect. Normally, the upward pointing triangle is below and the downward pointing triangle is above. If you bring the two equilateral triangles to a point where they intersect in such a way that they form a star with 6 equilateral triangles, the system is in balance and becomes very receptive. My work is about presence and transmitting something for which you need to receptivity. My words are not going to enlighten you. I only say things to confuse you because you cannot enlighten anyone by talking. It is the presence that has the power to transform. Talking is a good tool only to destroy the idiotic conclusions that people have made. When conclusions have been destroyed, confusion happens. Being joyfully confused about everything in the universe is a good state to be in. This remains that you are constantly paying attention to everything. Once you realize that you do not know a thing, you become receptive. If you have conclusions about everything, there is no possibility, no receptivity. If you have conclusions, you do not have to be attentive. You can go through life like you are dead. The more conclusions you have, the more rigor mortis there is in your mind and in your body as well. When conclusions are destroyed, confusion happens, being joyful. Okay. So we get to the end of the article here. There's a lot to it. Got a nice good video. And it talks last. Says consciousness gives you the possibility to become free from your tendencies, even if you've been ruled by all kinds of tendencies until the moment. If you respond fully consciously now, there will be a distance between you and the accumulated tendencies that you have. You might make every aspect of life consciousness, not only in action, but also in thought, emotion, and energy, and you'll be top of the world. Inner engineering provides tools and solutions to empower yourself to create your life the way you want it. It gives you the opportunity to intellectually explore the basics of life using methods from the distilled essence of yogic science. Okay, so very good. Interesting program here. Check that out. See what you think about that. But again, we have to use our imagination. You know, we talked about this star. It's kind of like, if you think about it, it's like the 6-pointed star that's used on the flag of Israel. It's not saying that you need to, it's not connecting with a religion, it's connecting energetically. You see, these symbols and these ideas of energy have been around a lot longer than these religions that have adopted these symbols. The situation is that these various religions have adopted these symbols and have grown so large that we think that this organization is actually the origin of these particular symbols, and that's not the case. What we're really talking about with the intersected stars, like the 6-pointed star, is energy coming down and energy coming upward and meeting together in that point. Kind of like us. Think of the human. We've got energy coming down from the cosmos, and then we have energy coming up from the earth, and between the two of them, we've got us. So we are that 6-pointed star, which is a combination of the energies of the above and the below. What we do with that energy from that center point, that's, a combination of all of the energies that we're getting from both the earthly and the cosmic realms. So we need just to be aware of this and not get caught up in the ideas of these symbols are bad because this group uses them. We need to look at the symbols and understand what they are and not get caught up in the politics of the particular group that's using them, because maybe that group is using them for some particular agenda. And when they do so, it distorts the meaning. kind of in the way that the term ISIS is being distorted by these terrorist groups that are called ISIS, as opposed to in the past when ISIS was known as a very important goddess to the mythology or the story of how life has unfolded. So we need to look at these things objectively. We need to understand there are those who co-opt things, they steal things, they take things that have meaning and they take it for themselves so that you don't understand the original meaning. And as time goes by and this information isn't taught, we have situations then where the younger people, they don't understand this because they're not taught. It's like I said at the beginning. We have a problem that's going on with a lack of patriotism here in America. The problem is because it's not being taught properly. And because it's not being taught properly in the schools, young kids are going to school and they're not learning the same things that their parents learned about having pride for the country or being patriotic. And so young people see things differently the way the older people do because of the influence of the education they're getting. And when you look at who are the educators, you realize when the educators were going through their process of learning, they were at institutions that had particular agendas that influenced what they were doing, that took them away from the meanings. And so when they were taught, they weren't properly taught, so what they pass along isn't proper either. So it's a continual problem. If we misinform others, if we pass along disinformation, then we can't be expected for them to pass along something good because we've disinformed them and all they're going to do is disinform the next group and then disinform the next group. And then as it goes, the information just keeps getting more and more twisted. So we need to be able to understand the manipulations that occur and go to the source. Who's the source? The Great Spirit, God, that divine source that flows through us. And when we go to that source, which is as easy as closing our eyes and going inside, when we go to that source, all of the distractions, all of the disinformation, all of the lies and everything drops away because source cannot be distorted. Source cannot be disinformation. It's the truthfulness that is in each one of us, but it's hidden in a place where most of us will never look, inside of ourselves, because we're so focused on the outside world, like the Hopi Prophecy showed. We've taken this other path, and we're up at this other path, thinking that we know it all, because we're on this upper path, and this is the path, and look what we've done. But the lower path, the path of nature, the path of moving forward, is where we should be, but we've gone to this other place and we've confused ourselves. So now we have to come back from that state of confusion back to the reality of who and what we're about so we understand what is really going on. And that's like the ripping the band-aid off of the wound. We're all now seeing truthfulness being expressed in the world, and people are dealing with it in different ways. Some people are just freaking out because they're finding out they've been lied to for a good chunk of their life. Other people have been aware of this. If you've been listening to the show for a while, I'm going to guess that you've also been out studying these subjects elsewhere for some time. And so this isn't something that is really that surprising to you. You're probably, like myself, thinking it's about time. We've been waiting for this moment to get here, and it's finally here. It's those people who haven't studied. Imagine, just think how long you have studied. I know I've spent years studying. Think of how long you've been out there studying these particular subjects, learning. Imagine now if you had not ever studied any of those subjects whatsoever. Imagine how you would be looking at the world now with all of the things going on. You could see the confusion that would be. We'd all be in a different mindset because we wouldn't understand. It's only because of the study and understanding that we're able to look at the situations and not be caught like a deer in the headlights. Because we understand that these times that we're talking about, these times that we've read that we're going to arrive, we understand that they're here. And therefore we understand it's just part of the process that is moving along. And all we have to do is understand things move along. It's like a script. Where are we in the story? We can see where we're in the story. We're in this end time section. We're towards the end of the story where this timeline is going to end. This story is going to come to a conclusion and a new story is going to begin. And that's the exciting part, that we all get to be here to be part of that new story, that new beginning. We just need to make it through this ending phase first. Before that, a lot of people are saying, I want to get out there, I want to do something, but they don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it. Just need to be patient because things are collapsing, crashing. We can't be building while things are crashing. We have to let things crash and collapse first, then the rebuilding begins. If you're here to help with the rebuilding of the new earth, with the new system, the rebuilding can't begin until the old system falls away. And that's what we're all seeing happening. It's like this idea of these two earths, the second heaven, second earth, pulling apart. We have an opportunity to move forward with this new idea, this new energetic, this new earth. And with that is a great rebuilding that is going to occur. But we're still in that transition phase where the old ideas, the warmongering, the fighting is all still kind of intertwined. But it's pulling apart. We're separating. We're seeing this. So look at things like you're observing a movie. Look at things like you're observing a movie and just see what's going on. Observe and try not to get so caught up in it because it's real easy. Our emotional buttons get pushed. The fire within us gets turned up and we get angry and we want to express ourselves in a certain way. The wind within us is stimulated in such a way by this fire or by these emotions, and then we want to express things in a certain way. And all of the ways, if we have anger, if we have emotions, and if we have expressions that are all coming from places that are filled with confusion, the end result, which is the earth, the form, the physical product, is going to have problems. It's like a recipe: fire, water, air, earth. The fire, water, and the air make the earth. But you have to have that spirit, that essence within it, that make everything really flow and move smooth. That's the one thing that we can look at. I think we all can agree that we've seen over time has been pushed away, pushing God away from life. And as we push God away, and as we've moved to that upper path on the Hopi prophecy, we've moved away from Great Spirit. It's time to move back to Great Spirit, because Great Spirit is waiting for us to return, to the path that we were once on, to return to the essence of who and what we're about, and leave behind all of these lies, this distortion, this disinformation. It's not as difficult as it sounds. It just requires the effort and the intent to do so. All right, here's a message for today. This is a channeled message from Archangel Gabriel, channeled from yesterday.
Daily Message Wednesday, August 10th, 2016 by Shelley Young. Dear ones, faith and trust are essential elements because they anchor the divine combination of your empowered operating system, which consists of surrender, faith, flow and trust. The energies of faith and trust work together to create the experience of acceptance. Acceptance is the foundation of peace, calm, and patience. Faith is the belief in the existence of a divine energy. Trust is the knowingness that the divinity you believe in loves you and supports you in all ways. We understand that both of these energies can be difficult to fully embrace because of their intangible nature. This is why we encourage you to work with us, to ask for our help, to surrender and allow yourself to be led and loved. It is through faith and trust that you show your active willingness to move into that partnership with Spirit and be able to stay in surrender and flow. You will start to notice more and more magic and miracles in your life and finally start to see the proof of our existence and endless love for you in more tangible ways. As you start to experiment with the energies of faith, trust, and surrender, you will start to embrace the flow as the unconditional love of Source that it truly is, and move into a deep appreciation of being such a beloved and valued aspect of that divine whole. You will allow the experience of being sustained and nurtured in all ways, and grace and ease will become your preferred way of being and navigating life. Archangel Gabriel.
Right. Faith is a very important element in everything that we're doing. Okay, I'm going to take it one step further and I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again right now. Not only is faith having faith that God exists and this spiritual essence exists, but faith put into practice is our ability to be able to bring that through us. So our having faith that we can bring this source through us, that we can allow it through all of the distractions that go on, all of the disinformation, whatever is trying to keep us from that, to true faith in practice, in my opinion, is bringing forth our ability to bring forth, that we have faith that we can bring forth divinity from us that is there by letting it shine. That's what I believe is putting that faith into practice. Because faith without works is just believing something exists. And believing something exists is one thing, but actually co-creating and co-participating with that which exists is another. And we are here as co-creators. Remember, you and I and everybody else aren't necessary to be here unless we have a purpose. Okay? God would not create us just for a random reason. We have a purpose. If we didn't have a purpose, we wouldn't be here. If God just wanted to do the things that we're here to do, God could do them without us. The reason we're here is we have a purpose to participate, to co-create in this process, to see what we can do when we work with this source energy. So we need to exercise faith. We need to bring that spirit that is in us and express that into the world and share that essence so all of us can be sharing and expressing and moving up. Imagine the world if we all were doing that. It'd be quite a different world than we're in right now. Okay, close your eyes. Let's do our meditation. Take a deep breath and exhale. Take another deep breath. Exhale again. And another breath. And exhale. Now, let's imagine ourselves walking along a path. And we come to a fork in the road and we see that one side of the path leads off to where there is a great party taking place. And we feel inclined to want to go down that path. But then we see the other path and it calls us to a much calmer, spiritual place. A peaceful path where we connect in with the source of all that we are. And we see the difference between these two paths where one stays connected and one is disconnected. And we see a great amount of people walking down the path towards that loud party that's going on. But something draws us to the other path, to the path least taken. So we take that path, and as we walk that path, we're able to see things with a different perspective. And as we walk this path, we see that the other path was simply an illusion, and that all of those walking down that path were just walking to a place, bumping into each other, confused, because all this path brought them was loudness, calamity, greed, selfishness, dissatisfaction. And we find that this path that we have on at this point in time is a path that brings us great satisfaction, for we see the true nature of who we are. And as we continue to walk along this path, we find ourselves moving with more confidence. We find ourselves expressing and working putting our faith into works by bringing that in us forward. And as we continue, we find ourselves growing in strength. We self growing in connection. And as we keep walking, leading by example, we find that one by one others abandon the other path and join us upon this path. And as more and more people continue to walk this path towards spirit and walk away from all of the illusionary ways of the other path, we find the world becoming a different reality. We find peacefulness settles over all things. We find that our angers dissipate and our love is accentuated. So we keep walking that path, knowing that step by step, moment by moment, each and every individual upon this planet begins to move closer towards that path, towards the peace, to the destiny that's set for us. So let's let the subconscious mind continue walking this path of peace, path of great spirit. And let's just imagine as we move along this path, we're just shining bright the light that shines through us, expressing and sharing the love that flows through us. Let's just keep sharing as we go through the day, so no matter what we encounter, we move past it with grace and ease. So let the subconscious mind just keep moving and sending out light and sending out love and positivity. And let's bring the conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3 coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2 coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1 coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale, and open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That is the show for today. We're now in the void of course phase. Just kind of let yourself be an observer this day. As we move into the afternoon, past the 12:24, past into the rest of the day, things will change as our unconscious is starting to focus towards this truthfulness that's out there. As we find ourselves desiring to reconnect to the higher aspect of who we are and leave behind all of this other nonsense. Maybe it takes all of this nonsense to get us there. Maybe we need to experience things and hit rock bottom with all of this disinformation, these lies and mistruths, before we realize we've finally had enough. And as we keep walking this path, as we keep expressing into the world that divinity which flows through us, the world becomes different. And we realize how each and every one of us plays a part. That's why we're here. There's nobody here that is just here randomly for no reason. We all have a purpose, no matter how big or how small, no matter where you are in the world. You're here for a purpose. You're here for a purpose. So let us all understand that our connection and our purpose can be found right here, going inside. So go inside, my friends, today. Connect with that Spirit of God that flows through you, flows through me, flows through each and every one of us. And just watch how the world changes. So observe what's going on today, my friends. Try not to get caught up in it, with your emotions, with your angers, with any sort of expressions. Just sit back, take a deep breath, and observe. See what the world looks like if you just watch it from that perspective. See how the things that are not important fade away, and see how we find ourselves thinking about ourselves a little bit different as well. That's it for today, my friends. I will be back tomorrow. Till then, have yourselves an awesome day. I love you. Keep loving each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.